why are modern couples spending, tens of thousands of dollars on these flawlessly curated, Instagram-ready weddings only to walk down the aisle wearing a scratched, broken, like 80-year-old watch?
Yeah, it really does seem like a complete contradiction. I mean, we live in this era where event planning has become an exact science. You have color palettes, lighting cues, perfect table settings.
Right. Everything is just immaculate.
Exactly. Yet the most highly valued item in the entire room often turns out to be, well, a tarnished piece of metal from a grandparent's attic.
It's so wild. So,
Hookups.
welcome to this deep dive. Today, we are looking at a really comprehensive guide from the modern wedding platform, Weddizer. And the focus of this guide is this massive shift happening in how we celebrate major life milestones, specifically the rising, almost central importance of heirloom accessories.
It's a huge trend right now.
Yeah. Our mission today is to explore how modern weddings are rapidly moving away from pure aesthetics, the pursuit of the perfect photograph, and pivoting toward deep, authentic storytelling. We're going to examine how people are using physical objects to literally bridge the past, the present, and the future.
Right.
So, whether you are actively planning a wedding or maybe attending one this weekend, or you are simply fascinated by human rituals and the profound emotional weight we assign to everyday objects, this deep dive will permanently change how you look at the tiny details of any major life event.
We are witnessing a fundamental sociological pivot here. The focus is no longer just on producing a visually stunning spectacle. It is about anchoring a highly produced event in tangible reality. I mean, people are searching for meaning over mere appearance.
Okay, let's unpack this. Because before we start itemizing specific vintage objects and how they're used, we have to establish the core philosophy driving this trend. Why are couples suddenly raiding their family's attics instead of simply purchasing, like, brand new, objectively flawless accessories?
Right. The Weddizer Guide actually outlines three main pillars for this shift toward heirlooms. First, there is emotional connection, which is basically the desire to physically feel the presence of influential loved ones.
Which makes total sense.
Yeah, absolutely. Second, we have timeless style, which is an enduring beauty that outlasts the fleeting whims of whatever's trending on social media this season. And third, family legacy, the literal bridging of generations.
And the source points out that personalization is the absolute top trend right now, prioritizing authentic moments over manufactured images. Standard, trendy wedding accessories are starting to feel a bit like fast fashion.
Fast fashion is inherently designed to be consumed rapidly and, forgotten just as quickly. It serves a functional, temporary purpose but carries zero historical weight.
Right. You buy a trendy accessory, it looks great for a single season, and then it is just discarded. It has no history, no soul. But wearing or carrying a genuine heirloom item is like wearing a novel.
I love that comparison.
Yeah, every scratch on the metal casing, every slightly faded thread in a piece of fabric, every specific design choice from a bygone era. It all tells a complex story. That object has already lived a full life before it ever reached your hands.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, we have to evaluate the psychological environment we are all operating in today. We exist in a state of perpetual information and, well, aesthetic overload.
Oh, completely.
Our daily lives are overwhelmingly digital, transient, and heavily filtered. So when a couple makes the deliberate choice to incorporate an authentic family artifact into their wedding, they are essentially pulling a ripcord on all that digital noise.
Wow, yeah.
They're establishing a grounding sense of reality. Amidst a massive production of floral arches and lighting rigs, that physical object is real. The ancestors who originally held it were real.
That is so true.
It functions as a critical, tactile connection to one's roots at a moment when everything else around them might feel a bit temporary or staged.
It's the physical anchor in a sea of perfection. And if we take that concept of a physical anchor, the Weddizer Guide moves from that broad philosophy of legacy directly into arguably the most classic, universally recognized symbol of endurance, which is the timepiece.
A watch is the literal manifestation of the passage of time. Inheriting and wearing one represents commitment and continuity in a way very few other objects can.
And the source outlines a fascinating resurgence in specific heirloom watch styles that grooms are inheriting. We are seeing a massive return to vintage dress watches with their minimalist, elegant faces.
Those are stunning.
They really are. And there are classic gold watches that carry that unmistakable mid-century weight. Mechanical timepieces are particularly popular, the kind where you can actually feel the tiny gears moving inside.
Right, acting almost like a secondary heartbeat.
Yes. And, of course, the traditional pocket watch is making a huge comeback. Beyond the emotional weight, the guide points out the sheer visual impact this has. Photographers are capturing these incredibly intricate close-up shots of these heirloom watches during the preparation moments, which adds profound narrative depth to the wedding album.
Well, a photograph of a newly purchased watch simply documents what time the picture was taken.
Exactly.
But a photograph of a groom holding his grandfather's weathered pocket watch documents generations of a family converging on a single monumental minute.
Wait, so what does this all mean if the grandfather's watch is ancient, stopped ticking decades ago, or just doesn't match a modern tuxedo? Because let's be realistic, most stuff sitting in a family attic is junk.
Right, it's not all pristine.
Yeah, like the glass might be scratched, and the metal band likely looks terrible next to a sharply tailored modern suit. How are people actually pulling this off without it looking like they were wearing a historical costume? I mean, sentiment is beautiful, but the object itself is often a functional disaster.
The guide addresses this exact friction point, and the solution requires something modern culture usually hates:
Which is?
patience.
Mm.
The Weddizer text emphasizes that you must start this process months in advance. You cannot treat an heirloom like a last-minute Amazon purchase.
Right, there's no prime shipping for watch repair.
Exactly. Older watches, jewelry, and keepsakes demand professional horological restoration. We are talking about highly specialized artisans who take the piece apart, clean the microscopic gears that have been seized by decades of dust and dried oil.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, they replace shattered crystals and breathe actual life back into a dormant machine.
So the act of preparation itself becomes a ritual of honoring the past. You are investing time and resources to resuscitate this artifact.
And that ties directly into how couples avoid the costume problem. The guide highlights customization as the bridge between the antique and the modern. The goal isn't to pretend you are living in 1940. The goal is to bring the 1940s into the present day. You can swap out a decaying leather strap for a sleek, modern band that matches a contemporary tuxedo.
Okay, that makes sense.
Furthermore, the text heavily recommends adding a discreet, modern engraving. Perhaps the current wedding date, the couple's initials, or a short message on the back of the case.
So you are stamping your own moment onto the timeline of this object. The watch continues to tell the grandfather's story, but now it also tells yours.
It is the literal merging of past and present.
A watch is a very overt, visible statement piece. But what happens when that desire for historical connection moves into the microscopic details, the subtle touches that a casual guest might completely miss, but carry immense weight for the person wearing them? The Weddizer guide transitions beautifully into what we can call micro-storytelling.
This is where the trend shifts from honoring the broad concept of a family tree to honoring very specific, intimate relationships.
Here's where it gets really interesting. Let's look at boutonnieres. Historically, a boutonniere is just a standard floral accent pinned to a lapel to match the bridesmaids' dresses.
Right, it's usually just a visual coordination thing.
Exactly. But modern couples are completely dismantling that tradition by integrating hyper-specific family elements. The guide details couples using flowers cultivated from an actual family garden. They are incorporating small family charms, utilizing vintage pins instead of standard florist pins, or wrapping the stems in personalized ribbons.
So much detail.
It is. But the detail that absolutely blew my mind was the specific mention of using fabric from a loved one's clothing to wrap the boutonniere.
Oh, that's beautiful.
Right. Taking a strip of fabric from a late grandfather's favorite tie or a piece of lace from a grandmother's wedding dress and literally pinning it over your heart. Instead of wearing a generic floral uniform, it turns a standard wedding uniform into a deeply personal, wearable museum exhibit.
That concept of a physical hyperlink is crucial for understanding the psychology here. The wearer has a tactile physical connection to someone who cannot be present.
Yeah.
The sensation of brushing against that specific fabric provides an emotional grounding mechanism during a highly stressful, adrenaline-fueled day. But it also transforms the social dynamic of the entire event.
Wait, how so?
Well, when a guest notices that unique vintage pin or the unusual fabric on the lapel, they inevitably ask about it. That question unlocks a story.
Oh, I see.
The wearer gets to speak about their grandfather's tie or the origins of that specific charm. The wedding transitions from a passive visual spectacle, where guests just admire the pretty flowers, into an interactive narrative. The guests are actively participating in the oral history of the family.
The environment becomes a conversational catalyst, and the guide emphasizes that even the flowers themselves are part of this microscopic narrative. Weddizer lists the most popular boutonniere, flowers, roses, ranunculus, carnations, baby's breath, orchids, and eucalyptus.
Very classic choices.
Right. But the key takeaway isn't just the aesthetic variety. It is that each of these carries deeply rooted symbolic meaning.
We are seeing a return to the Victorian concept of the language of flowers, where botanical choices communicate very specific intentions.
Exactly. You layer these meanings together.
Mhm.
You have the inherited vintage pin wrapped in the fabric of a grandfather's tie, securing a specific flower like an orchid for refined beauty or baby's breath for everlasting love. The level of intentionality is staggering.
It really is.
And the guide applies this exact same philosophy to bridal attire. Brides are actively sourcing family jewelry, necklaces, earrings, delicate bracelets, ornate brooches, and vintage hair accessories. The text makes a fascinating point here. These sentimental pieces have the unique ability to seamlessly integrate into absolutely any wedding theme.
Whether the overarching event design is rustic, bohemian, strictly classic, or ultramodern, authenticity never clashes with an aesthetic.
Right.
A genuine, historic piece of family jewelry grounds the bride's look, preventing the theme from feeling like a superficial costume.
So we have explored what you wear on your wrist, what you pin to your lapel, and what you weave into your hair. But the Weddizer guide pushes this philosophy even further, moving outward from the bodies of the couple and projecting it onto the actual room they are celebrating in.
We are looking at the environmental application of this storytelling. How do you take a rented banquet hall or an empty field and infuse it with the DNA of two converging families?
And the source outlines a multitude of custom elements that achieve this. Couples are exchanging physical, handwritten letters before the ceremony.